Hi again, Seid here, founder of Cascadia Workshops and coach and mentor to people who are committed to making a big difference in their lifetime. This video is about what's wrong with economics, and there's a lot that's wrong with it, but let's put it in perspective. Imagine that you're walking around your town and you don't have your device or it broke, and so you're using an old-fashioned paper map. Remember those? So you see a park on the map that you've never been to and you say, I want to go check out that park. So you're walking, you're following your map, and you get to the park, but there's no park there. It's condominiums, it's apartment buildings, and you're scratching your head and you're thinking, what is going on? So you look at your map, and in the corner you figure out the date, and it says printed in 1918. That's right, you were working with an outdated map of your town, and things were looking differently. Economics is a lot like that. Our current economic system made sense 150 or 200 years ago. Our economic system has been handed down to us by well-intentioned elders, but for a world that's completely different. Everything has changed, and we really need to update that map so that we can stop hitting all these dead ends. Our current economic map is based on at least two orthodoxies. One orthodoxy is the idea that the economy can grow forever. And not only that it can, but that it should and it must. So this idea of growth for the sake of growth, which Edward Abbey told us is the ideology of the cancer cell. So that's an orthodoxy that I never hear questioned on the media. Why must the economy keep growing and growing and growing? After all, we live on a finite planet. Measuring the health of the economy using only GDP, gross domestic product, as an indicator of growth is like flying an airplane using only the altimeter. It's like higher is better, higher is better, higher is better. Well, it turns out on an airplane that that's not true. And it's true with economics as well. These orthodoxies and everything else in economics is based on three stories. And in fact, if you look deeply at this, you'll notice that almost everything in how our lives are set up is based on these three stories. How we speak to our children, the kind of jobs we have, where we live, how we relate to our family and friends is based on these three stories. And we need to question these stories, and we need to come up with new versions for these stories. The first story is, who are we as human beings? Are we merely selfish individuals that by following our own selfish self-interest, then the invisible hand of economics will make sure that everything works out for everybody? Well, that part about the invisible hand just simply hasn't turned out to be true. But in terms of who we are, we could debate all day, what is human nature? My view of human nature is that human nature is a spectrum of possibilities. And so which of these possibilities do we want to actualize? Do we want to activate and live into? So we do need to question this story about who we are as human beings. The second story we need to question is, what is the good life? We have so many stories about what is the good life. I opened a magazine the other day and I saw an image in there of a person laying on an inflatable rubber raft in a swimming pool with a drink in their hand. That's the good life? That gets deathly boring for me after about 5 minutes. So we need to really look deeply at what is the good life. Is it simply more and more and more and more stuff? To meet what needs? What are we trying to accomplish by accumulating more and more and more toys? Is it acceptance? Is it self-acceptance? We need to look a lot more deeply at this question of what is the good life. Is coming down into my garage, getting in my car, driving out of my garage, going to work, coming back, getting back in my garage, and never meeting my neighbors, is that the good life? The third story I really want us to question and look at is, what are we doing here on this planet together? What is our shared destiny, humanity's shared destiny on this little blue ball hurtling through space? Because we seem to act as if we don't have a shared destiny, and we do. So we need to look at that, and we need to create new cultural stories for what that is. If you look at how this story plays out in economics and in our daily lives, we're told that we don't have a shared destiny, and that what we're up to here on the planet is competing with each other for resources, and that there simply just isn't enough for everybody. I'm going to call bullshit on that story. So let's talk about economics. The word economics comes from the Greek word oikos, which is the same root word as the word for ecology. So both economy and ecology have the same root word, oikos, which means household. So we see that economy and ecology are completely interrelated. You see, the old roadmap of economics tells us that the earth, the environment, is an infinite resource for us to exploit. It's where we get all our stuff to make cars and computers and shoes and whatnot. And also that the earth is infinite in its ability to absorb our pollution. Obviously, that's an outdated roadmap. And the new roadmap, and I really want you to consider this deeply, is that economics is a subset of ecology. If our economy grows bigger than our ecology, we're toast. We're out of air, we're out of water, we're out of trees, other species. Our economy, by definition, is a subset of the Earth's ecology. We need to work within it, and we need to recognize what the limits are. You see, every little thing that we buy at the store has a wake like a ship has a wake. You know, when a ship goes on the water, it leaves the lines behind it. So similarly, every single thing you buy at the store has an ecological wake, and a wake that it's leaving behind also in communities around the world. For example, this t-shirt, maybe half cotton, half polyester. The polyester, you know, when I went and bought this shirt at the store, what was so interesting is that all the impacts of creating this shirt were hidden from view. So that's one of the things that's built into our economic system, is that we don't directly see the impacts of our choices, and that helps us keep our head in the sand about it, so to speak. What I don't see in this shirt when I went to buy it are the oil wells. I don't know, they could have been in Iraq, or they could have been in South America, where a group of indigenous people was moved off their land so that somebody else could have access to their oil under their land. And I don't see the refineries, and I don't see the factories and everything that led to the nylon thread that's in this shirt. I don't see the cotton plantations and the pesticides that are sprayed on conventional cotton mean that if a field is going to transition away from traditional cotton, earthworms won't live in that soil for at least 5 years. That's how toxic this stuff is. And cotton is a super water-intensive crop. So just think about everything I'm not seeing when I go to buy this shirt. I don't see all those impacts. Then the cotton gin, and then it got spun into thread, and then maybe they went to Dominican Republic, and a woman was paid 20 cents an hour to sew this shirt together so that I could buy it for $6 at the store. Every single thing we buy has an impact on ecosystems and indigenous peoples across the planet. And this video is not about don't buy things. It's about wake up! We need to get more aware of the impacts of our choices and how we're living economically. So I just wanted to introduce to you the idea of ecological wakes and ecological footprint. Every single thing we buy has a footprint on the planet. And that makes our current economic system based on growth for the sake of growth unsustainable. Another piece people don't realize about our current economic system is that it's based on externalities. And this is a concept that a lot of people have heard, but not many people understand. And it's actually quite simple if I give you a simple example. The idea is that because our economic system was created 150, 200 years ago, there are only certain things that can be accounted for or acknowledged within that ledger of our current economic system. So let's use the example of a forest. A forest provides services for free. So many things that a forest does. It purifies the air, right? It absorbs carbon dioxide and gives us oxygen. It provides habitat for other species. A forest also prevents soil erosion. A forest also prevents flooding. It does so many things. It helps to stabilize the climate. So the forests of the world are literally like the lungs of the world. It's how the earth is, the biosphere is breathing, right? So all these things are provided by a forest for free. Our economic system has no frickin' way to account for that. The only value we can give a forest is how much can we sell the logs for, or how much can we charge people to go look at the trees, like ecotourism. We have no way to account for the oxygen creating services of a forest, the habitat creating services of a forest, the way it helps prevent flooding, the way it helps prevent soil erosion, the way it stabilizes the climate. We don't have a current way to account for that, so therefore it's worth nothing according to our current economic system. In other words, those things are externalities. They're outside of our economic ledger. So what we're doing is we're externalizing the costs to other species and to future generations. So we can mow all the forests down, but it's they who will be paying the price. So this is another thing that the next economic paradigm needs to account for. We need to internalize these costs so that we can have true cost accounting. How much does this shirt actually cost, given all the pollution that was involved? Or how much would it cost if we were paying people a livable wage? There's been a movement for at least 30 years, maybe longer, on steady state economics. This is an alternative to the growth for the sake of growth economics. So I encourage you to do a little research online. Just look up steady state economics, and you'll find that there are groups working on this, and there are loads of people working on this idea. So I want to tell you some things you can do, and then I want to end with a little story that really exemplifies old economics versus new economics for me. The first thing I want you to do is really ponder these stories and question them. The story of who we are, what is the good life, and what is our shared destiny on this planet. The second thing I'd like you to question is the whole story of growth for the sake of growth. And just notice that even in the liberal media, we're just totally bought in about that the economy must grow. So I invite you to question that, start asking questions, and inform yourself. Do a little research so that you can be a more empowered, more informed citizen. The third thing you can do is check out the link below for my Black Belt Money Skills course, because this is a way to insulate your personal life from the ups and downs and the vagaries of the larger economic system. And it's a way of kind of creating resonance with your own interior economy, your personal economy, the economy of your household, so that you are more resilient in the face of difficult times, and so that you can navigate the changes that are happening in our society in a way that's much more elegant and empowered. By elegant, I don't mean luxurious. I mean like refined, like you got this. And finally, I'd like to just end with a short story that I learned through Aikido. It's a traditional Japanese tale about heaven and hell. And for me, it says so much about economic paradigms. This virtuous prince dies, and his guardian angel shows up and he says, "Hey, you've been really good. I'm going to take you to heaven. But before I take you to heaven, I'm going to grant you a wish. What would you like?" And the prince thinks about it and he says, "I'd like to see hell. I want to know what I'm missing out on before you take me to heaven." So the prince says, "Okay." In a flash, there they are. And what they see in hell is a long banquet table with the most sumptuous, amazing banquet, this incredible food. Everybody sitting around the table has 3-foot-long chopsticks extending from their pinky and forefinger. And everybody sitting around the table is really gaunt and looks irritated, and in a bad mood, and because they have these long chopsticks, they can't feed themselves, so they spend their entire time knocking food out of each other's chopsticks. They have this beautiful food and they can't access it, and they're just constantly fighting with each other. So then, Guardian Angel takes this virtuous prince to heaven, and in heaven, what they see is a large banquet table with this most sumptuous, amazing meal you've ever seen, and everybody sitting around the table has 3-foot long chopsticks extending from their pinky and their forefinger. And everybody sitting around the table seems happy, they seem well fed, they're enjoying good conversation. And because of these long chopsticks, and because they cannot feed themselves, they spend their entire time extending food to one another. That, my friends, is the difference between hell and heaven. Just remember, we are in the garden. Thank you for watching. Feel free to poke around my other videos. Check the links out below. And if you want somebody to be like a private thinking partner, somebody to work with you towards some of your large visions and goals, one of the links below takes you to a free strategy session. So there's nothing to lose for you. And in this 1-hour call that we'd have together, we would look at what are your goals and dreams? What is it that you're really yearning to achieve? We'll identify the #1 obstacle stopping you or holding you back from getting there, and together we'll chart a path to get from where you are to where you want to be. So go ahead and check out the testimonials, look at what my other clients have said, and if you're on fire with your own life and you're committed to your own personal growth and development, and you're committed to making a positive difference in the world, I want to hear from you, and I'd love to support your path.